Cool. What's up? Yeah, you probably won't even be able to hear me for a good part of this. Just gonna hang up some clothes and just talk about what's on my heart as it flows out. So I've been in, um, just Mexico City. We got back here in January, and just processing what that's been like, and just life in general. And just something I've been encouraged in a lot. Um, just recently, and even this afternoon, this evening, you know. Basically, I've been trying to find the perfect way, I guess, kind of to get these messages out there and kind of what's on my heart and what I want to see in the world. But it just hasn't been easy because, also, like, I'm a full time volunteer. And so, what that looks like kind of for me is, you know, basically our whole mission out here, is to walk alongside people, help people feel seen, heard, understood, cared for. And because we know what it's like to be alone and carrying heavy things and just not know what to do with it. And so, anyways, that's just honestly created a lot of pressure because it just naturally flows for me to do that. And I see it, and the people that need to, be here, be around us, or who we need to be around, they just show up. And it's not always just me helping people, it's, just those relationships encouraging me as well. And, but anyways, all that to say, like, basically it's just created a lot of pressure, when I feel like, I have important things to say. And, yeah, because I feel like basically, yeah, I mean, it sounds goofy when I say it, and I don't think this is the exact way that I feel it, but it's like, have to, kind of show people what you're doing in an organized way, even though it doesn't really make sense, right? Like, um, how does that look every day? And, every day is different, but every day we are, seeing people and, just taking time with one person, like, can make a huge difference. So anyways, I just kind of wanted to get it out of that way and kind of talk about what I want to talk about as far as, like, yeah, you know, I think it's so easy to kind of go through life and feel that life, just kind of starts to get into a rut even. Um, and, like, feel like, just going to work, making money, doing normal life stuff. And it can get kind of hollow and empty. And what's this all about? And maybe a lot of enjoyable moments. But it can also, kind of deep down, it's like, what's going on? What's this for? Why am I here? And that to say, like, I don't think we realize kind of how big of an impact we have. It might not be a big impact, but it's not about being big. It's about the little things. And I just want to encourage you who's listening, because it's easy to think for me, like, oh, it's not really that big of a deal. But I know this has been a huge deal for me. And that it's just to know that, like, yeah, if you even just take time to listen to someone, that can save their life. And that intentionality you bring to the world around you and to others really does make an impact and is a big deal. It's not just a small little thing. And I want you to know that, um, because that's something I've struggled with. And when we remember that, I think it just makes life and what we're doing every day, like, it makes a lot more sense, because life is just so much more fulfilling when we're helping each other. And so what happens there? A couple things, I think we all have friends and family or someone we know who we know is going through a hard time, and that we might even want to help them. But yeah, we don't know what to do exactly. We don't know how to help them. Maybe we've tried, and maybe they haven't even opened up. Maybe they haven't even tried. They haven't told us anything, but like they're going through a hard time. You can tell something's just weighing on them. You mightn't even know what it is, but like they don't talk to you about it. And so I kind of wanted to go into that in a couple ways. I think first, like, yeah, I mean, not everyone has to open up about stuff, right? Um, but kind of goes into our own culture of why wouldn't we open up about what we're going through in general. And basically I think it all kind of comes to like, there's a point in all of our lives, maybe when we were kids, where we kind of born genuine, right? And then at some point, with no guards up or anything, we get hurt by someone. And really the thing is hurt people, right? And so maybe someone made fun of us or something, and that's not to be like, oh, woe is me, but what it does and how we respond are really important to look at. Because when someone does that, it makes us feel that, like basically there's something wrong with us, or it's not okay to be yourself, make fun of you, right? Um, Generally, how do we respond? And how we generally respond to that is, we don't want to feel that way again. And and so what do we do? If before we were vulnerable and open, what we learn is, we don't want to be vulnerable and open again. We don't want to feel that pain again, right? And and so we close off part of ourselves. We close off that feeling of vulnerability. And so what happens, with your friend who, is going through a hard time but doesn't open up? And then, what could you say even? Well, they don't open up because we've kind of learned to be okay, to just put on that face and just say everything's fine. And that might sound like, oh, woo, whoa, whoa, or woo, woo, or whatever, but it's true. And it's actually a really big deal because, like, that stuff really does hurt. And what happens in life, too, things start getting heavy. And especially with this stuff, like, there's not a lot of awareness around it. There's not a lot of people talking about it, or there probably are, but I haven't heard it. But I feel like majority of people haven't had a ton of conversations about this stuff, and so you just carry it and you carry it, and it gets heavier, and you're not really aware of it. You just feel it, and you just keep pushing through. Um, and most times we can kind of get through it, but it comes back. It comes back in so many different ways, like we're just not our genuine self, and we have to hide, we have to cover up. It just is a lot of strain. And then basically what happens too is like we're very adaptable creatures. We learn to adapt, and and so when something's really hard, if we can't find a way around it, we usually just you know learn to accept it, and we adapt to it. And so imagine, just those heavy things you're carrying, you just learn to adapt to it. Like, it just gets heavier and heavier. And so a lot of people like just live with that, right? And accept it. But it robs a big part of your life, your sensitivity, your vulnerability, you know, those are your gifts to the world. And so, looking back at that moment, like where we started to hide those things and whatnot, what else could we have done? And I think that's where, if you know who you are, and you've been trained to see those attacks for what they are and not to change how you see yourself, but to know so firmly who you are and then be able to kind of process those heavy things and deflect them and then continue to walk in who you are. But when we can't do that, you know, and so what happens eventually is people just accept it and accept it. It's like having holes in your ship and eventually you sink. And some people do that alive, but like part of them are dead. They lose their sensitivity. They lose a lot of things. Um, or, people will decide to exit life, you know? And, um, and also too, exit life isn't just to stop breathing, but also, when you live without emotion, full spectrum of emotions, you're just not there, you know? And, so yeah, so this stuff's a really big deal. And so then, like we were saying, or like I was saying, how do we help that person? What do we do? And so that's kind of what's going on, I think. But then also, um, that person doesn't ask for help because, like I said, they just learn to always be okay and they don't know how to ask for help. And so that kind of goes into a whole nother thing, kind of what I was talking about of not feeling, I was telling you about how listening to someone can save their life, but and kind of the mundanity of life. And life is mundane, right? But I think we all have such a bigger calling than we think, in the sense of it's a big deal when you listen to someone. And but what happens is, from kind of those things we experienced, we never ask for help. Then kind of this repeating factor continues on and on and on, in the sense of, no one's asking for help, and so then no one's needed. No one asks you for help. You're just going through life, doing what you got to do. You know, you lose a sense of actually like why you're there and feeling needed. And so we all need that. When someone asks us for help, like, that's the crazy thing about humans. You might know a message, you might know like the thing you need to do or whatever. Like, you might know, yeah, all those things, but it's still, you don't feel it. But when someone else tells it to you, it just hits differently. And what that does in the person who told you that is it also encourages them, like, wow, I'm needed. Maybe those aren't the best words, but I think you get the idea. And so, yeah, it just kind of creates this repetition in this world of, not people not needing each other. And yeah, I've experienced that a lot. I think that's what's kind of crazy in the U.S. Everyone's got their stuff, everyone's fine, and also too, like, another interesting factor is you walk outside your door and no one's really around, and that can happen anywhere. But what I found when I came to Mexico, was able to like help my wife's family in more tangible ways, and it just the soil that God put me in, and kind of brought more of that light of like being needed. Um, and I mean, you don't have to go too deep into it, we can go further and further, but yeah, so the idea of being needed, reaching out to each other, caring for each other, breaking kind of this culture of isolation as well. Um, yeah, those are big deals. And yeah, and so another factor that happens in this too is, we don't know what to do. We don't know how to help our friend because they don't open up. They don't tell us what's going on. So what could we do anyways? But another factor in that is we don't know what to do. And so it's kind of like, if you, walking down the street and you see like an old lady want to cross the street, right? And And so you kind of automatically just go and you help her, cross the street, maybe with her groceries or whatever. But what happens there is you see the need, and then you have like the things to be able to do it, to help. But what happens with our friend who's going through a hard time, it's kind of more like maybe a homeless person, asking for food on the side of the street. And it's like, yeah, you can kind of help them out, but you don't really know how to help them, and lots of times we just pass by. And why is that? It's like we all have such busy lives. And so, you know, um, okay, so I see my friend in this situation, but I don't know what to do. And they're not opening up. And so, okay, well, I just keep going. Um, and I don't know, like, we don't have to save the world or anything. And what can you do if we don't know what to do, right? And what could we do anyways? But I wanted to bring to light that aspect of just walking by, not knowing what to do. And it's not to blame anybody or, I guess make anybody feel bad. But I just think it's a situation that happens and repeats. So the question is, what can we do? And so I kind of want to propose kind of a solution to this and just kind of go a little bit further in just to the gravity of this whole situation. The isolation, people walking alone with what they're carrying, getting crushed under the weight. The emotional area of life that don't know how to handle, don't know what to do with, and just walking by. And, the whole idea of that, even just the decision of fatigue, people can try to change and try to change this way, try to do this, and it doesn't work. Things get heavy and you try to just accept it, but the weight gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And something's got to give. And so I think it's easy to see someone else's ship, maybe see a friend. That's why I bring that up first. But at some point that ship's going to give. And, I've lost a handful of friends already. Even where we live now, the owner of the house where we rent, he passed away. It's like 40 something, alcoholic, the sweetest guy. And yeah, just so many more things. And I think it's powerful in this. Well, let's just go into that, I think. So what do we do instead of just walk by? And I think what this calls for is like one, really grasping the gravity of this. It's a pandemic. All the people living in the street, drugs, addictions, and just I think it affects every single person in the world. Just working normal lives, wonderful people, but just carrying heavy things, conflicts, relationships, everything you're going through. And who do you talk to about that stuff? Where do you get it out? Is the only answer just getting used to the weight of it? Just imagining that it's gone. It doesn't go away. So I think looking at the weight of it, and then what I kind of see is, I call it slow, soft awareness. So this issue isn't going away. It's not. It's a human condition thing. And so slow, soft awareness is the idea of, it's like you see the homeless person there, don't know what to do. And so that's the first step. Slow, soft awareness is just realizing where you're at, looking at the situation, The idea is if I keep looking at the situation and not just walking by, then I can slowly build maybe not a solution, but maybe one action or something I can do. And over time, that builds and reiterates. And the whole idea is to become so aware of the problem and what's going on and looking at it regularly that that awareness builds into action. Because change doesn't happen overnight. And this isn't an issue that we can solve from one day to the next. But the more we can become aware of it, look at it, feel the weight of it, look at options slowly, the more probable that we won't just walk by and give up on it. Because when we walk by, what our actions are saying is, I can't do anything. And so that's kind of the big message here. First off is you can, that you are important, that when you take time to listen to someone, it can literally save their lives. Because often people are dying on the inside and screaming and running for help, but there's just no one there. And what's sad about this too is, it's just so accepted and normal to just hold it all in. And it's so dangerous. And even inside, religions and churches. And I think that's what was so hard. And I realized for me that this was such a problem was because I couldn't find really a place to get it out in like a real and tangible way. Maybe a little bit here and there. But who's walking beside you? Who's there for you? Who's calling you to see how you're doing? Yeah, and for me that kind of struck. So when I was 18, I moved to Chile. Went down there for 6 months. Ended up turning into like 10 months, and then 10 months turned into 4 years. And I was in like a community of folks, and it's really powerful. But what I realized, when you're not home, no one's really gonna call you. And maybe that's not the case for everybody, but I think it's kind of a life factor. And we're all busy and stuff, but yeah, we all need that. We all need that help and support and love and people walking alongside us. And so by our actions, that's why I want to bring this to light. Are we a person that just walks by? Is there someone in your life right now that you're just walking by? And I say that because like there is the reality factor of, it's too late. And maybe this isn't with everyone, and everyone has to, but that's why I want to talk about it, because I feel like there's not a lot of chat about it. Or maybe I haven't, I'm just, a recluse or something, but, before it's too late. And I just don't want that anymore in my life. And this is just such a reality and so true, this situation. And I know it's just crushing people. And so, if you're listening to this and that, but I think it'll get to the people that it needs to. You do and can and are making a difference in the world. And those little things you do every day do make a difference. And that time to listen to someone does and can save their life. Don't give up. Don't give up. And, if you're at a place where you've just been trying, and things don't change and you're ready to give up too, maybe that giving up can look like a lot of things. Maybe it's just kind of a numbness. And I think the thing for me that really made a big difference was realizing that I had like a limited understanding pool, especially around emotions and healing and things like that. Like there's a whole different level to it that I couldn't see. It's like being a blind boxing match. And so getting help with that stuff is a big deal. So I'm trying to make this content too. Basically when we're rejected or when someone hurt us, there's these inner defense mechanisms that we do. We try to cover over that pain. And so, I think part of slow, soft awareness too is just like looking at it and realizing like, um, oh yeah, this is going on. Like that's a huge deal. Like maybe it can't change right now, but like slow, soft awareness can. And just realizing like I don't know it all and this sucks and this hurts, like that's a big deal. That's a big deal, man. That is a huge step. And you might not be able to see it all right now. And even just saying that, like I can't see it all right now. It's like, even just saying it out loud, yeah, I'm feeling kind of shitty right now. Like even just being able to voice how you feel, put it in words. Like most of us can't do that. Don't know how. It's just not a custom or a habit that we do. And so, like it's not the end of the line. There is more, and things do change, even though it doesn't feel like it. And and there is hope. And I think that's something when you get to the end of the line, in a lot of ways, like that's something that I always come back to when I couldn't really get out of bed in the morning. Was life, we can look for such logical answers to everything, right? But it comes to the point where no logical answer is working, and that's where I just started crying out to God, something bigger, to unconditional love, and I pray for hope, and that's been a huge life changer for me, and and so helping that friend, just being there for them, like not always having the answer. Just gone through a season where my wife, we just had our son, and things got really intense. Again, so alone. Everybody, who helps you with your kid, and it's a culture too. But when we would talk and process things, which we do a lot of, and it would get so intense, I would get kind of freaked out in a way. And so I would always try to like offer advice or say something, and just don't. It just don't. Kind of fucks it up. And just listen, be there, be persistent, see them. I see you. I'm here for you. And then do it. Can change someone's life. And then the biggest thing here, that is the next step, I believe is what will transform and change the world, is to realize that it's easier to see your friends sinking ship, your brother, your sister, your family. It's always easier. It's a lot harder to see your own sinking ship. Moving to Mexico, coming here, just like everything's so different, living situations, homes, and you see what people get used to. You're like, what? Because maybe I had a whole different standard of living or construction or whatever, and you realize we all get used to things. Just get used to it. Maybe we don't know anything different. And what's powerful there is it's always easy to point out for someone else or whatever, but that doesn't really help unless you want to be part of the change. And one of the best ways to do it is to flip it on yourself. And where are you doing the same thing? And so I think the greatest way you can actually help your friend in a very serious way is to focus on your own health. Take a real look at your own life. how am I doing? And maybe talk to someone too, in a sense of like, lots of times people can see things we can't even see in ourselves. But get real and focus on, how am I doing? Starting to look at it. Because if we, well, one, that's why I want to start talking about all this stuff, because there's not a lot of language around it. And so I want for my son, for our world, to have so much language around these issues, about what we're carrying. Because what if we all, started focusing on our inner healing and how we're doing, getting rid of this baggage, not just expecting it to go away. You come home, you're tired, boom, a situation pops up, boom, a bad response, forget about for a while, a couple of days go by and it comes back, and it's just these cycles. And so, yeah, I think that's the greatest way we can really help someone else, is focus on our own healing. And if we all do that, everyone focuses on their healing, and our world changes, generations change. And I think it's easy, there's not too bad. My life's pretty good. But you have no idea the heaviness someone's carrying. And so, yeah, just some things to reflect on. Just things we're carrying, how we've learned to deal with them. And you're important. Not always focus on everything we haven't done, but what we have done. Living just content in the accomplishments we've made. But slow, soft awareness in these areas that need to change, and not just walking by. And what happens, if we just keep doing it the way we've always been doing it? Big hugs, fam. I gotta get inside.